You may have played poker, but playing poker in Texas is a different animal. This is the Texas Poker Podcast with Tyler and Clint.
Hello, this is the Texas Poker Podcast. I'm Tyler. This is Clint.
What's up, y'all?
And we are back with episode 56.
This episode is gonna have some fireworks. We are not lacking for content on this episode, so it's a kind of a crazy week I've had in poker. So I guess
I say last we left off, you were going to the Vloggers game, right?
Right. I had mentioned going. I wasn't really certain if I was gonna go. Ended up having to go do something around that side of town anyways, and ended up being like, well, I really want to go. I find Ben Deach entertaining. We don't watch Poker Face Ash as much, but I do like her vlogs when we watch her. And I always find Ryan... I went from not liking Ryan DePaulo's content to him being one of my favorites, too. So, he really grew on me. That WSOP he won in the parking lot, I started watching more of his content after that. I was like, this guy's actually pretty damn good.
Well, I thought you watched an interview that he did that really turned it around for you before that.
No, there were two things. It was that him winning that WSOP ring in the parking lot, because you brought me that. And then I listened to him on interviews, and he comes across on his vlogs kind of like moronic sometimes.
Well, but he leans into it, right? It's kind of the stick, I guess, and it's kind of his thing that makes him different from all the other vloggers, right?
He really does. He leans into it big time for like the comedy and all that. But when I listen to him talking in these interviews, he's probably one of the more thoughtful, definitely one of the more humble people I've actually heard in poker. You know, it's kind of poker's full of egomaniacs. You kind of have to be to go into a game, you know, thinking you're better than everybody else. This guy is like I say, I was really impressed by his interviews and how he came off. And he was still really funny, but he just came off as very, very different. And I was really impressed I think I heard him on the Rake, and I think there was also another interview where I was like, this guy's really actually a pretty cool guy. So I drive to this Vloggers game, and it's at 52 Social in Round Rock. I will say 52 Social in Houston is, at the very least, controversial.
I mean, definitely controversial.
So I kind of go in, I want to go see the game. They brought the Vloggers in. I really want to go check it out. But I already kind of like, you know, when you kind of go in and you're thinking like, well, I'm not really going to like this place or whatever, just because, you know, you already have it in your mind. I was kind of going there with my mindset. This place is freaking awesome, man. You walk in, and I took video of it. Maybe we can put it on the Instagram page at some point. It's got these gigantic TVs, way bigger than any of the poker rooms. Then the walls lined with regular ones. The place is huge. It has the most Vegas feel of any poker room I've been. Like even like Prime back in the day, like you go in there, like maybe not as the action of Prime back in the day, but it was still really busy. But the room is so sick. It's by far the nicest one I've been to. I can't even think of one that's close. And then it's got the restaurant, like a bar restaurant, and I like the way it's like closed off from the room, to where it's connected, but you're kind of going around where it actually feels like you're kind of in a different place. I ate there. The food is amazing, which 52 was not known for on there, but I was just really blown away by it. So I go in to play with these vloggers, and I ask for a seat. And they have 1, 2, and 1, 3 going. I end up going for going to the 1, 2 table and asking for the 1, 3.
Was that weird? Do you think they normally just have 1, 2? I guess you would know it's your first time there. Was it? I guess my first question one, was it a super deep stack 1-2 game? It would be my first one. And then, how were there more 1-2 games than 1-3? I'll let you go ahead and answer those.
No, I think there were less. It's not weird in Austin. It's weird here in Houston, but Round Rock does the same thing. And the 1-2 is actually not that deep stacked. I think it's a really cool deal because it kind of gives beginning players a little bit more of a leeway because the deep stack just go to 1-3. So I think it's actually a really good idea. I've seen a couple other poker rooms in Houston adopting it, but I go there. I win one hand with queens, pocket queens. It's bet to 20, call. I 3-bet. Everybody folds. Nothing big. And then they're like, well, 1-3. Well, I see Ben Deitch is over there, which of all the vloggers, he's definitely the one I want to go see the most. We watch his content the most. And so they moved me over to his table. And I was like, okay, this is really cool. So, and one thing that was really cool is a lot of time in the vloggers game, they're like moving them around a whole lot. The entire night, he was right there at that table. It was like, I got to play with him and another slow poker for just hours on end. It was really cool.
How many people were there for the vlogger meetup game? Because I feel like if they're not moving them around and you were there all night playing with them, I feel like some people might not have gotten an opportunity to play with them.
Well, I got the feeling that it was hard to know how much was going on because there were a lot of tables, but there was also a tournament that I think all the vloggers were in earlier.
Oh, okay.
Maybe that's I don't know for a fact, but that's what I kind of got the hint of. Because Ryan DePaulo, I never played with because I think he was playing in that tournament. And Pokerface Ash, same thing. So, I guess like there weren't that many cash games of people who were wanting to play. It seems like anybody who wanted to play with them could have. And because they were shuffling people like kind of hit and miss. And you'd, like some people, had no idea who they were. And then others were like, hey, it was really cool. You could tell they kind of came to play with them. And I run pretty well the entire night. I'm doing good in double board bomb pots, doing good just getting value from top pair. And I have what you could say just an explosive hand with a Ben Deitch. It's so we go. It is queen 9. I have queen 9 of diamonds. Ben Deitch raises. Ben Deitch has not been playing a lot of hands. Like you think he's. All the vloggers, when you play with them, they are pretty nitty. And this was no exception. Which they're all winning players, which they're going to be for the most part. So he raises. I call with queen 9 of diamonds. And there's a couple other callers. The flop comes jack 10. I think 3. So, with one diamond. He can c-bets it for a little over half pot. I'm open-ended with a very disguised straight draw and backdoor flush draw, never going anywhere. I call, somebody else calls. The next card is a 4 of diamonds, giving me now open-ended with a flush draw. Ben Deitch now leads out for $120. I remember the exact amount. I remember it was like close to 2/3 pot. It was a pretty big bet into this pot. I think about it and I'm like, I'm never folding here. Not when I turn the flush draw. I have the open-ended straight draw. Both, if I hit, would be very disguised. I think about jamming over the top. But I decide, well, I've got some pretty good implied odds here. If he calls, then this is kind of a draw-heavy board. He could kind of call light here, and I'd really just be cheating myself out of the implied odds. So I call, the other person folds. The river is a brick. And I'm like, well, son of a bitch. But I'm like, well, I'm in it this deep. I've got a little over a pot-sized bet left. Ben Deitch, I'm like, if he checks and shows any weakness, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shove. Sure enough, he checks, and I shove. He tanks for quite a while and ends up making the fold. Now, this could kind of play in my an asshole here, that the Reddit, like the subreddit. I show Queen 9 of Diamonds the bluff instantly, and you can tell he's pretty pissed off. He didn't storm around or anything like that, but you could tell he was visibly annoyed and pissed. I didn't think anything of it because I thought this was a very standard move. The way this hand played out, I just felt like this was kind of the way this hand was going to play. What do you think about, one, how I played the hand, and number two, about showing the bluff?
Well, I love all of it. I feel like how the hand was played was, like you and I were discussing earlier, very standard, right? I feel like that's kind of, your moves were very limited there, right? It was either check and give up with Queen High, or go for it, and this seemed like a great time to go for it. So just on principle, I like that. And also, I like that kind of, you and I talk about, you don't really need to balance your range in live poker, but I still think it does help when people know that you're capable of putting in a bluff on the river. And I would think showing the bluff in the meetup game would be, I don't want to say standard, but pretty normal practice, I would think. Every time we watch Andrew Nemi and Brad Owens' meetup game, and I think Johnny Vibes' meetup games, I think that's kind of comes with the territory of being a vlogger. People want to play pots with you just because who you are. You're going to increase the action. And when you increase the action and people miss draws like they're more likely going to, I think people are going to try to bluff you more often than not. I don't think to be mean or anything. One, that play was very standard, but I think they're going to show it to you I think it's one of those things where whenever you see someone like on a podcast every week or on a vlog, you feel like you know them. Like you kind of have a feeling like, not that you're friends maybe per se, but like that you kind of know them, but they don't know you. And I think it can kind of make for a weird dynamic sometimes.
Yeah. I got that feeling too. I feel like he thought I bluffed because he was a vlogger or whatever, or showed because of that. Well, okay, the showing, I think that did come into play. The bluff, I think just the way that hand played out, it was just how I was. I would have played that same way against anybody. But when I go to showdown, there's a couple things going through my head. One is, well, he's there for content. Has not been playing a ton of hands, and not every hand is interesting. Most hands you play in poker are pretty damn boring.
Okay.
You flop top pair, you bet, there's a call. You bet again, somebody folds. You have good cards, you miss. You pocket jacks, comes ace king. Someone bets, you fold. There's just a lot of boring hands. And he can. Once I fold my hand, he can ask what you have. I can say Queen 9 of Diamonds, but he doesn't know that. That's not real interesting content when someone says that, because you really don't know. You don't have any finality. As someone who watches a vlog, I would think, if you are bluffed, especially in an interesting spot, you'd be more likely that you want to see it, because it at least gives the viewer something final in that hand.
Oh, 100%. I completely agree with that. I love whenever people show, like Brad Owen or Andrew Nemi, their hand, just because, like you said, people can say what they want, but that doesn't mean it's true. More often than not, I'm lying about my hand when people ask me.
Oh yeah. I know you're crazy. You do that. You do it on principle, I think.
Yeah, but I do agree that I've been thinking for the meetup game, showing the bluffs and even showing the really good hand. I don't want to say, just very common. I think that's just kind of the atmosphere.
It's I didn't. Well, and here's the other thing. is, I guess it's like a cocky thing. Like I'm better. One, I think it's more fun for the game, but and I guess there is a little cockiness to it. There is a little bit of showboat to it, but not much in this hand. Because for the most part, like the way from his reaction, I would say the least he was on was Ace Jack or an overpair. Because I don't think anything less, you really are going to feel that bad about that. But when I go all in here, there's not that many bluffs I have. I mean, the only bluffs that make sense are 8-9 of diamonds, Queen-9 of diamonds, and King-Queen of diamonds. So, kind of just doesn't really... I don't really think it's even that good. It's not even that well of a play. He's losing to like 90% of the hands I have here. Anything I'm going for value, probably. So I don't know. I didn't really even think it was a bad fold. Really, in all honesty, I think it's probably a good fold because I'm going to have it here way more often than I'm not.
Yeah, I still think though maybe like because you said he stood up for a minute or whatever, and maybe walked it off.
Well, I know he seemed annoyed and racked up his chips probably like 3 or 4 hands later. Like I say, nothing outrageous or whatever, but I don't think I'm getting a Christmas card.
Well, I mean, the thing I was going to say is I think that is one thing that's pretty smart by him is if you know something's going to affect your play, to just get up and take a break or, call it for the night.
I can agree with that. I definitely can, because I've definitely done the opposite.
Oh, God, I've done the opposite. I mean, if anything, I'm trying to take a page out of that book.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was a really kind of it's really nice because I've gone to some of these vloggers games and just sometimes you're not going to get into a decent hand with them. That was kind of nice to get into an interesting hand with someone you went and saw, because regardless of anything, I think people should watch his content because I think he makes really good content. But yeah, that was the interesting hand.
Well, and then the other thing is, remember when we went to Johnny Vibe's game and he was super cool to talk to, but he was super card dead and no one really got to play hand with him.
Yeah, he was real card dead, and yeah, I've been to a couple of vloggers games where it's not really all Jamin's games. Now, Jamin's kind of fun at the table even when he is card dead. He's kind of a character a little bit, so he doesn't matter on him much. A Rampage is a lot of fun to play with, but you got to think these players, if they're winning players, they're going to be pretty nitty. You're not going to be playing a ton of hands with them for the most part.
Especially if they're winning players in Vegas, right? I would say that it's a little looser in Texas, right?
Oh, yeah, 100%. So these hands are really... Yeah, I don't know. It was really a fun experience. It was really a fun experience going there and seeing Ryan DePaulo. I said hi to him, said hi to Pokerface Ash. So and then I did spend the night, and I came back and played that next day. And I will give this guy was just a ton of fun to have at the table. We've never watched a vlog of his, but it's called Slow Poker. And apparently he does kind of more of a comedy like Ryan DePaulo type vlog. So I'm definitely want to check that out because he was actually a lot of fun to have at the table.
Yeah, we'll have to give it a watch and, maybe report back.
Yeah, see if it's good.
But yeah, that's pretty cool that you got to see all those people. Did you have any other sessions this week?
Well, I went and spent the night at a nearby hotel, and then came back that next day and played at 52 Social. Like I say, I thought the room was, even not wanting to liked it. And I knew all the vloggers would come back, but it was an early day session. Nobody was really there except the slow poker guy. I think his name was John. And we played, and I ran super hot. I do not think I missed a double board bomb pot. It seemed like I had the nuts on every double board bomb pot I played. And, those pots get pretty big. So had a pretty monstrous session. Was kind of waiting to see, the vloggers come back. And they had a live stream with the vloggers, which I think was probably pretty cool. I haven't gone back and watched it. But it had Ryan DePaulo, the slow poker guy, Ben Deach, Poker Face Ash, and all that. So, but I was up quite a bit, and I was like, well, they're going to be doing this live stream for a damn long time. I got to drive back to Houston. And I don't know. And then after the live stream, I'm not sure if they're even going to want to play poker after that. So I was like, well, I think it's just good to call it a win, because it was like a $1,500 win trip. So that was pretty nice.
Yeah, it's very nice, especially when you're going to have fun as well.
Yeah, it was real interesting. Got to see a really cool place, get into it with a vlogger. I mean, so it was a really. I was like, well, if I donk this back, then it just becomes not as fun a trip.
Oh, God. If you donk it back, I mean, that's a sad, sad drive home.
Yeah. I remember when there were no poker rooms in Texas, and every time you wanted to play, if it was a legit game, you were going to Louisiana. And those drive homes back when you won, they're pretty nice. But when you just donked off 800-900, even more, and you're driving back, that's a long time to think about your losses.
It's kind of crazy to think how we used to drive to Louisiana all the time, and now we just play so regularly in town.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, because a lot of the people, poker is kind of a younger crowd. There's kind of a younger crowd, and a lot of people don't even know what it was like before these legal poker rooms. It's kind of weird to think that, they're just grew up with this availability of it.
Absolutely.
So I come back and let me see, what else did I play this week? I go to Texas Card House. It was Texas Card House has gotten a lot more action. And there was something I was waiting for the podcast to let you know, because I think it's one of our favorite rooms, except for this one rule, and that's the must-move rule, where you're constantly taken from like a great table to a shitty table, or they're taking an action table, you're an action player at your table to another table. I go there and play, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, well, let's do this. Within 10 minutes, the floor guy comes to the table and says, this is no longer a must-move game. You do not have to move unless you want to. And me and this other guy, I started commenting about how great that was, because how I hate that so much. And this other guy to my right, he's like, that's one of the main reasons I sometimes don't come here, is because of that one rule. So I don't know if that's a thing that they're starting to change, but God, I would love to see it change.
No, I mean, I've been there before where they changed my table to a not must move.
Oh, really? I was hoping it was more of a permanent thing.
No, I think they do it whenever the game... I don't know what determines it, but I know they have certain tables that are not must move, but the other tables go into that table.
Oh, okay. That's disappointing, because I was hoping.
I definitely didn't need to save that for the podcast. I mean, I got to answer that for you right away.
Well, okay. Well, I was at home. My table became a not must move game, so.
I was like, I thought I was breaking news.
I thought I was breaking news. I was like, breaking news on the Texas Card House.
Everything's the same.
Just one kind of interesting hand. I end up, a guy bets for 20. It's kind of it's got a pretty nice table. Not a lot of grinders. The guy to my right's pretty good. Everyone else seems to be kind of, kind of splashing. I make a very light call with Jack 10 off, and several other people call. I'm like, this is going to get dicey. I just know it is. And the flop is Jack high. The guy bets pretty decent amount. I think a little over half pot. I'm just not going anywhere with top pair. I call. Everybody else folds. The spade draw comes in on the turn. He checks behind. I check behind as well. I still do have top pair, though. And then the river blanks out, and he shoves. I'm kind of torn. I didn't think he had I thought he could have an overpair or a better kicker. and I was kind of tanking for quite a while. He starts to say that he's like, "Is Ace Jack good?" And I'm like, "Yeah, Ace Jack's good." I told him the truth. There's no reason for me to lie. And he's like, "Oh, okay." He's like, when you kind of went into the tank, he's like, "I kind of figured it was." He's like, "That's what I got." This strangely becomes very big for me because I was worried about an overpair that just checked because of flush draw. Well, now it looks like it's either a complete bluff or it is Ace Jack. Because there's no reason for him to say that if it's aces, kings, or queens. So if I'm ruling out aces, kings, and queens, and I have one blocker to Ace Jack, I end up, it's probably a crying call. I'm losing more than 50% of the time, but I go ahead and make the crying call, and he mucks his hand for the Jack being good.
Yeah, there's one thing that you're just way better at me than at the poker table. It is breaking down those like the what would it be called? Not the live talk, but the talking in the hand and some of the plays that to me, I guess, like for me, like when people would come like 8-8-3 and they bet gigantic, I was like, oh, a lot of times before I would fold and you're like, well, is an 8 really betting that much when they want to get value, or like kind of breaking some of those live reads down? And that's something I feel like you do really well. And when you told me this hand, when he was describing that he had Ace Jack, I was thinking I was going to fold, to be honest. So that is one thing I think you do very well. I guess probably just from playing a lot at the bar games and stuff. But once you broke down the reasoning of having the blocker to the Jack, that now all of a sudden, well, you had the blocker, he didn't have it makes it less likely he has an overpair. Now that he said that, and then kind of break it down in your head, what he said to you to justify the call, I thought it was pretty slick. So
yeah, it was. Yeah, which is weird because I usually put you on like more live reads, like a.
Well, I'm more into physical tells.
Yeah.
I've had some of those what I thought were like verbal tells go completely sideways.
Oh yeah, it used to get me because certain people will actually tell you the truth, and when they would do that, I would always think they're lying, and sure enough, they just have it or whatever. So yeah, it's that. I guess that does come with experience on what you can and can't believe. But this is kind of like the Garrett thing. It's like it looks good this time, but I was very close to folding here. It could have gone either way. So it just because I remember like everybody's giving him just a ton of credit for all of his plays, and I heard an interview, and he's like, yeah, it looks good. He's like, but all those great calls, I was very close to folding, and it takes a couple of those just to make it look the other way.
And you're talking about Garrett here, not the guy you're in the hand with.
Yeah, I did not bluff Ben Deach earlier in the week and then make a hero call against Garrett Adelstein. If somebody's thinking that, way wrong.
Yeah, at first I thought you were talking about the guy you were playing against. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
But
Tyler's like, what circles are you running with in the poker crowd now?
I guess that concludes most of your sessions this week.
So yeah, it was I've actually gone on a little bit of a nice upswing. Let me see on the bankroll session. So I was up about 1,300 on the trip, and then won about 265 on the at Texas Card House, which was a very short session. So it was it's been kind of a nice little uptick. So, but that pretty much concludes the my little trip to Austin to see the poker vloggers and then the Texas Card House session.
Well, I guess we'll get into my session then. I played last night at Doghouse, and it was one of those sessions where this is not what you want to hear on the podcast, where nothing interesting happened. And off. No. But it was, there was one where I had top pair. I had queen 10, and it was a straddle pot. It was three ways counting myself. The flop came 10 high with a flush draw. Blast for pot, both call blast for pot on the turn when the 10 stays the top card. And everyone checked, and then I bet I down bet super small on the river. Got one call, top pair with the 10 was good. I mean, it seems pretty standard. Everyone was on a flush draw. Both players were.
Well, I mean, someone had to have more than a flush draw if they called you on the river with the 10, right?
They had to have. They didn't show. They both said they had a flush draw though, but they must have had a pair somewhere.
Yeah,
they did not show me.
Maybe with a pair plus draw type deal. Yeah.
One showed the king high flush draw. The other one only showed the ace of spades.
Okay.
Kind of one of those things, and we'd had the whole thing of like, oh man, if a flush came, that would have been kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I had a hand also, which was, you might think this one's interesting. I know the PLO hands are kind of brutal to, hard to keep up with at times, but I have basically pocket fives on a PLO hand, pocket fives in like, I think it was like 5, 5, 6, 7, something like that.
Okay.
I flop bottom set with no straight available on one board. Or not one board, the board. Yeah, I was like, wait a second. And there's a flush draw, so I bet I didn't pot it. I've kind of gotten out of the habit of potting in every street. Seems like a good habit to break. So I bet maybe like $15, $20 on the flop. I got 2 callers. The turn was like a 6.
Well, I know you flopped bottom set. Well, what were the other 2 cards? You said no straight available, but this is going to come into play.
I believe it was definitely 5, 10, and then what else would it be? I know for sure there was no straight. Was it
over to the 10 or under?
No, under to the 10.
Okay. So let's say 5, 7. Okay. Okay, and you bet a call, and the 6 is the turn, which probably makes a straight.
2 calls.
2 calls?
2 calls, yep.
Okay.
But there is a flush draw.
There is a flush draw, okay.
So I bet pretty big, got 2 calls. The turn was, believe it was a 6. I'm like, okay, well, this isn't the worst, right? Because I think I had 5, 5, 6, 7.
Did it make a straight, though? It sounds like it did.
I think it did.
Yeah.
It had to have, right? But everyone checks to me again, so I assume they don't have a straight when they check to me on this. With the flush draw still available.
Okay.
I'm assuming they don't have a straight.
Okay.
The river pairs the 10s. Now I have 5s full of 10s.
That's... Oh, God, the way this plays out is so difficult. Okay, yeah.
One guy pots it, the next guy calls. And now I was in position the whole time.
This is one that is just a fold.
Yeah. I did fold.
You did fold?
I did fold. And I was thinking I was about to be super sad when I see someone flip over 2 pair or something. But, yeah, he had 10-6.
Yeah, it's... So we were talking about, like, I was listening to, it was actually a Crush Live Poker podcast, and it was talking about how the PLO podcast was talking about how just PLO is so new that people are, whatever they bet, you just give them credit for at this point, because there's not enough bluffs, like even compared to Hold'em. It's like everybody's basically plays their hand very straight up. I love your fold on the river. I mean, coming from a Hold'em background and you not playing a ton of PLO, that's a very good fold. Not easy to fold a boat.
Yeah, but you know what helps? Getting stacked a bunch of times with crummy boats.
Exactly. That's sounds like you paid your tuition and you learned from it.
Yeah. I did have one, which is just going to sound like a gripe, but I had pocket deuces in a double board bomb pot, and I had deuce ace, like 9, flop bottom set of deuces on one board, just a 9 on the other board, with an ace. So it was deuce ace.
Okay.
But you only have pocket deuces basically. The turn is another ace, so now I have aces full of deuces.
Oh, nice.
And it's heads up. Me and this.
Wait. Oh, this is Hold'em.
No, PLO.
You don't have aces full of deuces then.
Well, I had, so the board was...
Or you have... You have pocket deuces, you flop a set.
and I have an ace, and it was deuce ace, let's call it a low card, like an 8.
Oh, I thought you flopped a set of deuces.
I had a set of deuces. So I had pocket deuces and an ace.
Okay, so you have, on the turn, you had aces full of deuces.
It turned another ace.
Oh, okay, I got you. I thought you were saying deuce. I was like, well, you have to play. I thought you were trying to use both aces with the deuces you had in your hand.
No.
Okay, I got you. You had the top set. Oh, you had bottom set, but you had 2 pairs as well.
Yes.
And then I got you. Okay, I'm with you now.
I might have just misspoke, but so now I have aces full of deuces. I was like, okay, so he'd have to have ace and then that other card. Like, not the worst. And I still have the pair of 9s on the bottom board.
Okay.
It's heads up. I pot it there. He calls. I was like, well, this player could just have an ace a lot of the time. Like, I know this player could have an ace here and called this off.
Okay.
The turn is a 3. Sorry. The river is a 3 on the board. So it was deuce, ace, ace, 3, and then like a 6. He goes to check it. He goes, I think we're chopping. I'm like, I think I'm winning. So I bet 100.
I agree with this.
He snap calls. He has ace 3 for aces full of 3s, and he had a queen on the other board.
I think that's just a cooler. It's a. I mean, it's very likely he has the other board, and you're betting him off of it. I think. I think this is fine. You have you're worried a little bit about bigger boats, like pocket 3 still has you beat. Wait, no, aces full of deuces. You still have that beat. God, you have just damn near every. This is just a cooler. I think you played this just fine.
Yeah, but I thought that was kind of an interesting spot. I basically just kind of, no crazy action or crazy hands happened. The big hand for me was I had pocket 9s. I believe I was either on the, no. I was in the big blind, but there's a button straddle. So I ended up only calling the straddle, because normally it gets repopped, which it did, and got popped like 20. So I think it was like 4 or 5 ways to the flop. The flop comes queen 9 5 rainbow. Okay. I just bet. it was one that I don't really want to see check through.
Were you the pre-flop raiser?
No, just a donk.
Wow, this seems so strong to donk lead into this. Pocket 9s, you flop a middle set?
You're right. Sorry. I hate when I get the hand mix up like this. You're right. That did not make sense. That's not what I did.
I was like, man, what a weird lie.
Yeah. Sorry. I check it over. Pre-flop raiser bets. I raise. He re-raises. I go all in. He snap calls. Board runs out. King Jack. I was like, well, that ain't good.
Oh, Christ.
He said, you're good. That was it. That's why I had a set. He said, you're good.
He had to have ace queen, maybe.
Probably. He didn't show, but he just said you're good. Yeah.
I don't know. That's very... when he re-raises, I'm almost kind of nervous that you just ran into pocket queens, actually, but you're never folding, so...
Yeah.
It's...
And this is where things... I don't want to say got interesting, but... So this player, he showed up and... he's a recreational player doing well in life and other aspects for sure.
Right.
He plays all the time. He's there almost. It's the guy who boated on me last week.
Oh, wow.
And took all my money. But, yeah.
Rude.
So, very. So, he was there and he's stuck horribly in this game. I don't know what he had. It might have been a cooler. But he had gotten coolered by some other hands, right? Which is going to happen. And, he wants to play PLO the whole time. He's like, I'd be cool to switch it to round of each. And I was like, no. And then everyone else, like, it was a lot of the players who we played with who only wanted to play Hold'em last week. Okay. So I know they don't want to play PLO. Because you can kind of see they're kind of hesitant.
Right.
But this guy busts out again. And he's like, well, I want to play PLO, round of each. And I was like, you know what, man? I'm going to leave in 10 minutes. we'll play for 10 minutes. Sure. You know, if that's what you want to do. Sure. Then that pocket nines had to happen. I busted him again. So I'm like, well, I feel like I should probably stay at least a little bit. So then so he leaves to go try to get money. All the people at the table were like, well, we should just go back to Hold'em while we wait. You know, so we go back to Hold'em, and then the dealer's trying to tell him that, oh, they switched back to Hold'em. I'm like, no, hold on. We'll switch back to Round of Each when he comes back. But we all want to play Hold'em.
Yeah.
You know, it was only 5 or 6 handed.
Right.
So we also want to keep, you know, he's kind of, I don't want to say fueling the game, but I mean, it's kind of fueling the game, right?
Well, I mean, if you're 5 or 6 handed and the action player leaves, it's very likely somebody else is leaving too, right?
Yeah, me. But but so he ends up getting money. We come back and he's like, I want to play PLO. I was like, oh, well, we're already playing PLO. So I was like, all right, we'll go back to PLO. It's fine.
Right.
But like we had always kind of talked about, and why we like Ben Deitch as well, for what kind of his philosophy is, you do kind of have to cater to the, I mean, I guess really you kind of, even, I mean, recreational or not, I mean, whoever's kind of losing that night, I feel like you kind of cater to, right?
I think you should. If, you know, you definitely want to make the action players who make the game, you know, you want to make them happy, because it's not me and you and kind of the grinders. I mean, we're definitely not. I mean, I don't think we're as grindy as some people are. I'm probably not as nitty as I should be. But that being said, we're not the ones making the game by any means.
Right. I'm probably just nitty enough. But no, absolutely. And here's something that I thought was kind of interesting. Whenever I went to go play 5-5 or 5-10 at some of the other card rooms, right? One thing I thought was nice is they were always doing bomb pots. I was like, oh, I don't really want to do a bomb pot. I'll just sit out. You guys can do it. I don't care, right?
Right.
It makes me sound like the super fish. But they're like, oh, well, if you don't want to do bomb pots, then we won't do bomb pots. Like, well, but I guess it was also because I'm the new player to the game. Everyone knows each other. You know, they all, I mean, there's only so many people playing 5-10 in that area, right?
Well, also, one, yeah, you're right about the game, but here's the other thing. If somebody doesn't know poker and understand your game, you can come off as a fish.
Oh, no, 100%.
Because I mean, if somebody is just looking at pre-flop hands, not understanding the implied odds, how much implied odds it takes to have that hand, doesn't understand that you have these bluffs that you have, there are players who think that, you know, if you go all in and you have nothing, you're a fish. Or if you're showing 4-6 suited when you're 3,000 deep, that you're a fish. So I think it could be a combination. Like, if they don't know you and all of a sudden they see you playing some of these hands that, like, some fishier players might play, I mean, you might have that reputation for a minute when actually it probably serves you well.
Well, and like we said, I think a few weeks ago, is oftentimes I'll lean into that sometimes. Like, I'll call set trips on purpose.
Right.
Stuff like that. Just something that if I was playing with someone, I would catch but wouldn't say anything.
Yeah.
But I would know that they're a newer player, so I kind of will sometimes lean into that a little bit the other way around.
Yeah.
But I've also had one of the players from the game, he was talking to me, he's like, yeah, I already know you're a winning player. I've seen you play. He's like, that's not working. He's like, yeah.
I got to get a player.
He's like, yeah, I get it. But yeah, it's not, I know. Like, it's good we were talking about something else, but he's like, yeah, no, I'm not buying that. So
that's pretty funny. I got to give that player props there.
Yeah. I mean, him, very good player. I mean, so, but Go ahead.
Oh, I was also going to say, there's something I want to circle back to because it goes along with your play and something I forgot about showing this bluff that I constantly get onto you about, like, when you're big on showing bluffs. You've got me to do it now sometimes because that was kind of something I would never do until you started talking to you about poker. I sometimes want you to channel it back because you have more bluffs in your range, so it kind of hamstrings you a little bit.
Well, here was something I was actually going to bring up to you about this. Like at Doghouse, I would say there's more recreational players than grinders there. Overall. Just the environment in general. Same thing at Paramount. Right? Like a room like Paramount, Doghouse. There's a few other ones. I can't think of any.
I would say Texas Card House is right there too.
I haven't been there in a minute, but so doesn't.
Yeah.
I've been on some rough tables over there, man. Some pretty grinder heavy tables. But I have been in some rec games there though too though. But in a game like that, like at Doghouse, I don't normally show the bluffs, even though I'm bluffing quite a bit there.
Right.
Because when I show the bluff, I show it to certain players who I think are going to take that information, and I can use it to like reverse psychology. In a game where it's just rec players, like people who don't really know poker or are still pretty new to poker, I don't normally show them the bluff because it doesn't help me. And then that's when it kind of, I would say kind of, for me, crosses the line of using it as a strategy versus kind of using it just kind of a jerk.
Just be a dick.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I combined those two with you in the beginning. I was just like, this dude's just a dick.
Well, I will show it to a new player if I know a player at the table is there who I could use that information against later. Like I tried bluffing one of the guys at Doghouse who I know you play with a bunch, who's a reg, who's always there, and I thought was capable of folding a certain hand in this time. He wasn't. But I still like that he knows that bluff is possible there, so I'll use it later.
Well, that was kind of my thing. Like, if you have those bluffs in your range, because you have more bluffs than I do.
100%.
And me showing the bluff here, because I do it so little, showing the bluff once and letting people know that I don't always have it, because I do have it more often than not. I mean, I don't have as many bluffs as you do. So having those players know that there is a possibility I don't have it, if it gets me paid off at all a little bit more, going to be pretty profitable over the long run. Because that does stick in players' heads.
100%. I guess the one example of that would be I was at the Texas Card House tournament. This was like maybe 3 months ago or something, whenever we were playing with Jeff.
Right.
I bluffed someone in a hand. I didn't show the hand. This one player was dying to know the hand. Everyone's dying to know the hand because I like shipped it on the river or something. I had literally nothing, like 6 high. But it's, everyone folded. Everyone wants to know what I had. I told him I had 6 high. This guy gets so mad. Not in the hand. You're lying through your teeth is what he says. He says, you didn't have 6 high. You had a set. And I was like, I would have showed you. That's not, okay.
Yeah.
He was like, you're not even capable of bluffing or something like that. And I was like, okay. And then I bluffed him in the hand, right? Didn't show him because I was like, well, this guy clearly is not someone who's playing, and it does me no good to show this player bluff other than to just piss off some old guy.
Oh, I thought for 100% you were going to show the bluff after he called you out and said you weren't capable of it.
Yeah, but that's kind of like an example because I thought about it and I was like, all I'm going to do is ruin this guy's day in a free tournament and I don't really care about.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where I kind of find the line, I guess.
Yeah.
Because like when I say use it for strategy, I do use it for strategy. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's yeah, I think where's mine is like if I do I have it so rarely that I can show up maybe more often because you want that to really stick in almost everybody's, because if I do it, I feel like it sticks in everybody's head.
100%. It sticks in my head. But
Tyler's like, because I still think you're incapable of it.
Yeah, but I guess to conclude the episode, because I know we've circled back to that Ben Teach bluff, I feel like showing him the bluff is mainly for content. That's also, you're in that environment where that's, I don't want to say accepted, but I think it's very common practice in the meetup games to show bluffs, right?
There's certain tables I feel like you say, you probably shouldn't. And there's certain tables where you feel like it's more, because everybody was kind of, it's Ben Deach, it's the slow poker guy. Obviously, both poker. They're not new. They're good winning players. The guy to my left was obviously a pretty big winning player, I think. So, and I wasn't I know you shouldn't talk strategy at the table, but if I'm going to sit there and go to a Vloggers game, we're not going to sit there and talk about the carpet. I mean, so we were talking a lot of strategy at the table. That's the reason I go to those games. Is to, you know, I like poker. I want to talk poker with these poker players. I don't want to talk about cars. I don't know shit about cars.
I go there for free coaching.
Yeah, I go there for free coaching. I guarantee you they think I need a lot of it.
But I like I said, I do think that's very common practice there. And getting bluffed, I guess if it does annoy you, getting up and leaving or taking a break or walking off is fine, right? You should, you know, kind of, I think that's good to know yourself that way. But I do think getting too angry about a bluff is like playing football and getting angry about getting tackled.
Yeah.
I mean, every time you get the ball, you're not going to score a touchdown.
Well, okay, like I give it a little bit more credit than that because I used to get very angry on this stuff too. I would say it's be angry about getting tackled and then having the guy run in circles showboating about it because that's what it's kind of is, right? It's not the fact that you got bluffed; it's the person's like showing it, and there's a little bit of arrogance to it, right?
I guess I see a lot of that in football. So
there's a lot of that in football.
Yeah.
But guess what? There are a lot of fights in football too. I know you think that's gentle, but those people, they get pissed off at each other when they do that too.
Well, on that note, this concludes the Texas Poker Podcast. We'll talk to you next week.
That was the Texas Poker Podcast. Go ahead and rack up, add time, and we'll see you next week.